President Kangaloo's disingenuous gender defense, why her attack on UNC criticism falls flat, an editorial by Professor Wall Street. President Christine Kangaloo's recent suggestion that criticism of her independent senator appointments stems from gender bias represents a troubling mischaracterization of legitimate political concerns. Speaking at the opening of the Arthur Locke Jack Global School of Business Women in Leadership Conference on July 8th, she questioned whether she would be as harshly criticized if she were a man, listing the questioning of the impartiality of independent senators among the attacks on her since becoming president. This defensive posture is not only disingenuous, but also undermines the very real concerns about political neutrality that should be central to any discussion of presidential appointments. By framing substantive policy criticism as gender-based discrimination, Kangaloo deflects from the legitimate questions about her deep partisan connections and their impact on supposedly independent appointments. The UNC government's criticism of her appointments is not rooted in her gender, but in her extensive political history and partisan ties. Her attempt to shield herself behind gender represents a calculated deflection that insults both the intelligence of the public and the legitimate concerns about institutional independence. Here are 10 reasons why President Kangaloo's gender defense is disingenuous. 1. Extensive P&M. Political career speaks volumes. Kangaloo's political resume reads like a P&M career roadmap. Opposition Senator, 2001. Vice President of the Senate, 2002. Government Senator and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, 2002 to 2005. Minister of Legal Affairs, 2005 to 2007. Minister of Science, Technology and Tertiary Education, 2007 to 2010. Member of Parliament for Pointe-à-Pierre, 2007 to 2010. And President of the Senate, 2015. This extensive partisan history, not her gender, forms the basis of legitimate concerns about her appointment. 2. The Gospel of the P&M Declaration. The UNC's rejection of Kangaloo as president was partly based on concerns about whether the gospel of the P&M would be spread in President's House, referencing her own famous declaration to take the gospel of the P&M and spread it. This explicitly partisan statement reveals her ideological commitment to the P&M, making any claim of neutral appointments suspect. 3. Timing of gender claims is suspicious. Kangaloo's gender-based defense emerged only after facing criticism for her appointments, suggesting a calculated strategy to deflect from substantive concerns rather than a genuine belief in gender discrimination. If gender bias were truly the issue, why wasn't this raised during her lengthy political career when she faced previous criticism? 4. Male P&M presidents never faced similar defense. Previous male P&M affiliated presidents faced similar criticism from opposition parties without resorting to gender-based deflection. The pattern of criticism against presidents with strong party ties is consistent regardless of gender, undermining Kangaloo's claim that her treatment is uniquely gender-based. 5. Family political network creates conflicts. The Garcia-Kangaloo family network includes prominent P&M figures, such as former Minister Anthony Garcia, P&M appointed technocrat Noel Garcia, and her husband Kerwin Garcia, who received millions in state briefs under P&M governments. These family connections create unavoidable conflicts of interest that have nothing to do with gender. 6. UNC's consistent opposition to partisan appointments. The UNC consistently opposed Kangaloo's presidential nomination from the beginning, with then opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar stating she was totally outraged by the audacity, the bold-facedness, and shamelessness of this government to put forward a nominee in the person of an active sitting politician. This opposition was based on her political activity, not her gender. 7. Appointed under PNM government, Kangaloo was appointed president under a PNM government, creating an inherent perception of partisanship. Her deep ties to the appointing party make questions about the independence of her appointments, legitimate institutional concerns, not gender discrimination. 8. Deflection from substantive governance issues. By framing criticism as gender-based, Kangaloo avoids addressing the substantive concerns about whether someone with such extensive party ties can make truly independent appointments. This deflection prevents the kind of transparency and accountability that strengthens democratic institutions. 9. Undermines legitimate women's issues. Kangaloo's misuse of gender discrimination claims actually undermines the fight against real gender bias in politics. By crying discrimination when faced with legitimate policy criticism, she dilutes the impact of genuine gender-based concerns and provides ammunition for those who dismiss real discrimination. 10. Sets dangerous precedent for presidential accountability. If presidents can deflect institutional criticism by claiming gender discrimination, it sets a dangerous precedent that shields the presidency from legitimate oversight. This approach threatens the balance of power and accountability that is essential to democratic governance. The real issue: institutional independence. The core concern raised by the UNC government is not President Kangaloo's gender, but whether someone with such extensive partisan ties can maintain the institutional independence expected of the presidency. The current UNC government is publicly questioning the independence and objectivity of independent Senator Anthony Vieira, SC, as a senatorial appointee of President Christine Kangaloo, whom the Prime Minister stated was drawn from the ranks of the People's National Movement. This is a fundamental question about institutional integrity that transcends gender. The presidency requires not just the appearance of neutrality, but genuine independence from partisan considerations. When a president with deep party ties makes appointments to supposedly independent positions, questions about those appointments are not just legitimate, they are essential to democratic accountability. In conclusion, President Kangaloo's attempt to frame legitimate institutional criticism as gender discrimination represents a disingenuous deflection that does disservice to both democratic accountability and a genuine struggle against gender bias in politics. Her extensive PNM political career, explicit partisan declarations, and family connections create legitimate concerns about the independence of her appointments that have nothing to do with her gender. The UNC government's criticism should be judged on its merits, not dismissed through claims of discrimination. If President Kangaloo truly believes in institutional independence, she should address these concerns directly, rather than hiding behind gender-based deflection. The people of Trinidad and Tobago deserve a president who can separate institutional responsibilities from partisan loyalty, and they deserve honest engagement with criticism rather than convenient deflection. By resorting to gender-based deflection, Kangaloo not only fails to address legitimate concerns, but also undermines the very principles of transparency and accountability that should guide the presidency. Her approach sets a dangerous precedent that could shield future presidents from necessary oversight, weakening the democratic institutions she is supposed to protect.